I'm pretty sure that the thumbnail to this video had you reacting one of two ways. Either you were like, yeah, I agree, these fans are all racist idiots, screw them. Or, oh my god, what the Drake saying? That middle is supposed to be evil! Either way, negative attention gives me more clicks. So let's talk about relatively safer alternatives to bands like Burzum. This is alternative to controversial black metal bands. For my list of controversial bands and alternatives to those bands, I will constantly be paraphrasing from a list off of OYM called Black Metal Bands and Their Politics, created by user Hello Inquisitor, that grades bands by their sketchiness or whether they are far left leaning anarchist, communist, or socialist, or far right leaning fascist. My personal list also includes one extremely controversial death metal band that has a connection to one of the more fascist leaning black metal bands. But we'll get to that in a bit. Another preamble before I start getting into this list. I am not telling you not to listen to any of the sketchy bands because a fair bit of them, despite being very terrible human beings, are actually quite instrumentally talented. You can listen to them if you want, but only if you happen to possess the comfort level required to push aside their various controversies. Because let's face it, there are a lot of controversies in black metal. I can say that despite my grievances towards the members of artists like Deathspell Omega and Mayhem, I will admit that I do listen to both of them. I can also concede that both of those artists have actually made some amazing music over the years, regardless of them being two of the last bands I would recommend for people just getting their feet wet with black metal, in my personal opinion at least. It's up to you in regards to how you want to go about listening to any of these artists' music and whether or not you want to buy any physical copies or merch from them. If you want to buy, I don't know, like a Burzum shirt, I'm not going to judge you for doing that. Do what makes you happy. Also, I am going to rank them from least to most problematic, starting with Darkthrone. Now, the extent of Darkthrone's mild sketchiness basically starts and ends with the seminal raw 1994 classic Transylvanian Hunger. Now, the album itself is hypnotic and bewitching, and it really deserves this classic status. But there are a few things about that record that might make some people a little bit uncomfortable. For starters, original pressings of the record came with an edgy slogan that read as North Alice Black Metal. Alice translates to Aryan in English. And considering a certain evil, funny mustache dictator's hellish association with that word, that's pretty yikes, man. The next concern of note is how the original press release accused would-be critics of the record of having, and this is their words, not mine, Jewish behavior. That's not okay. That's not okay, is it? Lastly, the second track on the album has a couple racist lines in Norwegian against black people, penned by an angry teenage version of their drummer Fenrir, which is surprising given that the back half of the album was written by Burr. Many years after the album came out, Fenris was apologized for his comments, basically calling them stupid and childish, which leads me to believe that maybe he was being peer pressured by Bugs to be evil and edgy and all that. It's entirely possible that that's the case. I'm glad Fenris has felt remorse and a change for the better. But if you're still weirded out by that whole information that I just told you about, well, you're in luck, because Darkthrone is one of the most copied bands in raw black metal today. Spend an hour on Bandcamp and you'll find dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of projects using Transylvanian Hunger homage covers along with the infamous raw sound some of us have come to love. But if you want a straight to the point Darkthrone worship project that emanates that classic raw sound, check out the debut EP from Ukrainian black metal band Burzum. It features Crying Orc, the Pale Swordsman himself of Tech Iraq, on guitar, and his friend Wanya Mamkin on drums and bass, as well as Felnan on vocals. It is not the best black metal release of the year, but if you're looking for a classic Darkthrone sound alike without feeling a mild stickiness, this EP would not be such a bad place to start. Moving up in severity, we have the case of the American depressive black metal band Deathspell. Soul fixture Malefic, aka Scott Connors, has gone on record about his sympathies towards National Socialist black metal, saying that he doesn't take offense towards NSBM, and basically crediting the population of non-white people in his hometown for influencing the nonchalantness towards the racist subgenre. For a depressive black metal band that is not sympathetic towards any racism at all, check out the Danish band Offbeat and their past two black metal records. While it might not have the exact same feel as Zasper, they do have that sense of despair and anguish that depressive black metal often attempts to evoke. Plus, away from the music, there are very staunch LGBTQ plus allies, as evidenced by their recent Instagram post about their new Pride stickers in which they had this to say. Though I don't see Oxy as a straight up political band, I, as a private person, still care a lot about the globe and environment, about animals and how other people are treated all along the globe. The recent laws and restrictions in Poland against the LGBT plus community are just not acceptable in any way. It's yet another big step in the wrong direction of mankind. No one should ever feel unsafe around other humans. I know this is not saving the world, but it still sends a message to the people filled with fear and hate that are a part of the problem. And to add to that, it helps that AFSCII on Vendetta Records, a very explicitly anti-fascist label from Germany, with a strict no NSBM policy. So they are pretty much safe as far as depressive black metal goes. Moving up the ladder, we've got the Austrian black metal crew Aberdor. While there are no racist lyrics in the songs, the band are friends with a very infamous white supremacist named Henrik Mobus, who is a member of a notorious NSBM band Absurd, and we'll get to them in a bit. Mobus wrote the lyrics to their song The Dark Kiss, and guitarist and bassist Peter Kubik says he shares views with the guy. Yeah. Also, drummer and second guitarist Thomas Tannenberger has gone on record saying that he is not a friend to foreigners, end of quote, and has refused to cut ties with several of his neo-fascist friends in the NSCM scene, citing that black metal has to be free in a 2007 interview. It's hard to get into that dark keyboard laden black metal without having to worry about connections to abhorrent people. Check out Negative Plane's 2011 album, Strange Black Revelation. It might not be as unique as their 2022 album, The Pact, but it achieves a similar atmosphere to Aberdor in that it sounds like it was recorded in a cathedral. The nightmarish American black metal project called actually has been guilty by association red flags, mostly revolving around their sole member Kyle Spanswick, who also goes by the moniker Nash Alchemist. According to the Red and Anarchist Black Metal subreddit, there have reportedly been a number of photos of Kyle hanging out with members from several NSBM bands. Also, in his side project Nightbringer, he sampled a quote from Julius Evelyn, a late Italian philosopher whose inflammatory views and rhetoric have inspired neo-fascist and white supremacist groups across the globe. And as the rotting, maggot-infested cherry on the dung heap of evidence, in May of 2022, an actress concert got canceled because the Belgian band Wajadu, who are very much against playing shows with fascists, found out about Kyle and the other band Mgła's connections to the alt-right and promptly dropped out. Now Kyle, in true black metal chudlord fashion, posted a rant on his private social media pages calling out cancel culture and other stuff. You can look it up. It's very unhinged and it makes him look like a freaking man child, of which he probably is. So if you want terrifying nightmare-inducing black metal that is not done by a Nazi-sympathizing Edgelord, check out the new Noir record. While the drummer did play with an NSBM band from 2012 to 2016, he's been on record feeling remorseful of his time with that band. However, if that drummer stuff about Noir still freaks you out, may I humbly suggest checking out the crazy, insane music of Juice Dice. This project is the brainchild of a guy named Adam Combat, and it is avant-garde black metal using microtonal tunings and extremely dissonant notes. The end result is this strange, mysterious, and dizzying atmosphere not too far off from Acme's or Blue Dot Nord in terms of nightmares and obscure WTF. As an entry point into his vast discography, I'm going to pick the Industrial Pin 2016 album Endurance. It has some slower, almost kind of Middle Eastern grooves, breaking up the dissonant black metal blast beats that really make it more dynamic and more controlled. However, it's definitely not accessible. Not by any stretch of the imagination. And as proof of Adam not being sketched, on various dates throughout the rest of 2022, the money pledged to Zeke Guy will go directly to the National Network of Abortion Funds. So yeah, he said woman's right. Way to go, Adam! Now, we are moving on to your favorite melodic black metal band. Dissection. Yep, even the most amazingly pretty riffs of Storm of the Light Spain are safe from the scores of bigotry. Main songwriter and frontman John Notface was involved in a group called the Temple of the Black Light, a theistic satanic cult, basically. In the summer of 1997, John was sentenced to 10 years in prison for being an accomplice in the murder of a gay Algerian man, Yosef Ben Madour. The killings were carried out by a temple member known only as Vlad that John had been hanging around with for some time. The two were discussing crimes like animal sacrifices and other illegal stuff they were planning to commit. So yeah, some pretty heinous crimes right there, folks. The shit your conservative Bible-thumping grandma probably thinks of when you say you're a metalhead and or a Satanist. But John did himself in after serving his sentence, choosing to end his life in 2006. The authorities found his body in a circle of candles and a satanic grimoire laying beside it. So, if John being dead makes you feel better about listening to Dissection, have a go at it. Enjoy it. But for the rest of you all that are spooked out by the man's actions, there is good news. So many clones of that band's sound exist. Modern bands like Havikunu, Stormkeep, Hyperion, and others borrow a crap ton of influence from Dissection. Even mainstream extreme metal giants like Children of Bodom drew some of their influence from the riff of Dissection. But if I were to point you all to a band that sounds just like Dissection without having to worry about John, look no further than the British melodic black metal band Minkosak. Even the album cover looks like a Dissection album cover. Like, look at that artwork and tell me they're not a Dissection worship band. Oh, and Vinterland's good too. Listen to them too. We are now ramping up the nefariousness and getting closer to National Socialist black metal. Because the next band I'm calling out for being sketchy is the one and only Deathspell Omega, one of the most influential and forward-thinking black metal bands of the past 15 to almost 20 years now. Deathspell has spawned leagues of imitators trying to play the super dense and literate blend of black metal, but nobody can knock the complex theistic and metaphysical work that DSO produced. That's why I call them the thinking man black metal band. However, as with most of the big names in black metal, there is a controversial member in the group. His name is Miko Akba, and he is Death Omega's Christian vocalist. Let me get this out of the way. Miko is a trash human being. He also fronts an NSCM band called Clandestine Blaze. He had a power electronic project that was focused around illegal pornography. Yikes. And he owns the label Northern Heritage, where his friend Mgła are signed to. We're gonna get to Mgła in a bit. So yeah, he's a trash bag, even if he doesn't like any of Deathspell Omega's lyrics. We want to get into that whole Deathspell sound without worrying about people like Miko getting their grubby fingerprints all over their work. The Icelandic black metal scene and the related compatriots centered around the label Mystica wouldn't be a bad place to start. Bands like Wormless, Cafe, and the Spanish-based project Deloin all borrow directly from the Deathspell Omega playbook. Some of the bands have said edgy statements which they have since apologized for, but all in all, they seem to be pretty chill. Another safer alternative to DFO is probably Claret. Since 2007, the New York City-based band have put out album after album that have been pushing the genre forth in a different yet similar way to DFO, without any of the slight alt-right presence of the latter. In fact, they released two albums in 2022. The first of them being one in which all of the members, except for the drummer, switch instruments from the ones they usually play. Guitarist Colin Marston is also an acclaimed and highly sought after metal producer, having worked with many bands remixing and remastering across the scope of extreme metal. He also owns a studio called Mgła, also nicknamed the Thousand Caves, in downtown Queens, New York City. And if you want one more reason to listen to Claret, they participated in the Overgrow to Overthrow compilation back in 2020, released in support of Black Lives Matter. But yeah, you listen to either option if you happen to be uncomfortable with listening to the Deathspell Omega. Now we're moving on to Miko's partners in crime, the popular yet controversial Polish band Mgła. The members of this band also play in the same NFCM band that Asta is in. And while they are very talented in their own right, especially the drummer Darkside, that and the fact that they are signed to Northern Heritage might be very, very concerning. Also, when Antifa and other anti-fascist groups pointed out their guilty associations, the band tried to actually sue them. These people sure don't like getting called out, do they? Anyways, if you are uncomfortable with that information, I will give a slight recommendation to listen to Water. But even those guys are just slightly right-wing, albeit not no way Mgła are, but when they cried foul at Antifa one time in 2018 for shutting down their show more than a band that were actually the reason for the cancellation and made a song called No Place Here all about that, that sort of brings up very mild red flags there. You can still listen to them, though, if that doesn't really happen to rankle you. Another band that might be a safer alternative to Mgła is Dissection from Lithuania. Their most recent album, Colors of Faith, contains riffs that are similar in tone and length to Mgła's, and the songs are very well constructed. Plus, they are on Transcending Obscurity Records, a very awesome record label with a killer lineup of bands. And I'm going to go off script here because I forgot to mention Diarrhea from Portugal, who has just had their album come out this Friday as a filming. They dress in masks too, like Mgła, but they haven't shown any signs of supporting fascists or whatever. So you can listen to Diarrhea too if you don't really want to listen to Mgła because of the whole guilty by association thing. Now, before we get to the nadir of morally repugnant black metal that is the NFBM scene, we first have to look up the guys who influenced all those racists to pick up instruments and play black metal in the first place. The myth, the villain, Mr. himself, Bard Freakin, and his project, Burzum. Now what can I say about Bard that hasn't been said 1,000,000,000 times over by other black metal fans, either in praise of his music or in derision of his character, or even vice versa for some people. For those unfamiliar with this man's crimes, let me just do like a Spark Notes version of them, okay? Well, while he was in the infamous band Mayhem, their bassist murdered his bandmate and got 14 years in prison for it. The only problem is, it was a Norwegian prison that he was in. So he was still allowed access to his instrument. So he started making Dungeon 6 albums after they took away his guitar, none of which really show up on screen because he tried to be a sneaky little boy and had some swastikas on the artwork for his 1997 album, Scotty Boulders. Nice try, Bug! I can still see them! You can't fool me! Anyway, he also wrote quite a few racist texts before and during his prison sentence, and was heavily into his self-described Odinism stuff too. He had a website called Thulian Perspective, which would later become his very notorious YouTube channel, which existed until 2019 when it was taken down for anti-Semitic and Islamophobic hate speech. Honestly, that's been one of the only things that Steven from YouTube did after becoming CEO that I actually approve of. Good job taking down bugs, Steven. Unfortunately, clips of his channel still get uploaded by his closest fans to this day. And there is a clear difference between Bug fanboys who listen to everything he says and Burzum fans who really despise Bug with all their soul, but also happen to like some of the classic albums like Philosophem and all that he made. And I'm one of the folks in that second group. I love Philosophem. It's a very meditative black metal album. But if you can't listen to Burzum because of bugs, that's fine. I can understand. And I've got some alternatives for you. Okay? The first of these is from the anonymous one-man project Phaedra and their first album from 2020 called Six Voices Inside. The album is very reminiscent of Philosopher, with a simple keyboard melodies and generally laid-back atmosphere. For black metal, anyway. There is also Motor from Sweden, but since the main member, Raffin, does business with labels like Wolfbell Records and records like that, I would say listen if you want, but with a bit of caution. He does do some great Burzum worship regardless. Finally, I would recommend to you the American atmospheric black metal project Kill. Their take on the whole Burzum style have grown off of me personally, but I do like they have friends with bands that don't screw around when it comes to refusing to collaborate with fascists. So you might like what you hear from them if you want to listen to a Bar Street clone of Philosopher. Well, now we arrived at the most controversial bands of this entire video, the bands of the dangerous National Socialist black metal scene. If you don't want to hear about these highly controversial bands with their repugnant worldviews, I wouldn't blame you for not wanting to know about them. You can end the video right here and just give me a like and watch something else. A disclaimer is gonna follow, so you can just get off there if you want. Hope you learned a lot if you got this far. Alright, anybody left that's still morbidly curious about this topic? Anybody? Okay, let's get into these highly controversial bands, starting with the only band associated with that scene that I have listened to, the Ukrainian band Nokturnal Mortum. These guys have played at the very infamous white supremacist festival Oscar Drive many times. And they haven't stopped playing in that crowd, unfortunately. Even as they toned down the racism in the lyrics, starting with the 2009 album, The Voice of Steel, they still went and collaborated on books with artists like Graveland afterwards. So, yeah, I'm not gonna see them live or wear any of their merch. Ooh, boy. Also, for the first half of their career, when they did include references to the NF Party in their music and artwork, they apparently had some absolutely disgusting lyrics in their native language centered around anti-Semitism. But for all of the controversy, the instrumentation of Nocturnal Mortum's music is actually quite stellar. It's a seamless blend of folk and black metal and guitar solos lifted from the playbook of, believe it or not, Pink Floyd. That is why it's kind of hard to find safe replacements for these guys because instrumentally, they're so damn good at what they do, especially on the Voice of Steel album. But I am still going to recommend some alternatives. This isn't a one-to-one replacement, but Austin Lund's project Panopticon sort of gives off the same triumphant, folky vibes with more hopeful, caring, and also lyrics that aren't racist at all, albeit with the folk parts being bluegrass banjos and pedal steel. And steel would be a good alternative too, with the folk elements being more Celtic and the flags in the lyrics being more ambiguously Scottish. However, I say kind of because band leader Andy Marshall did have a side project on a sketchy label where he had some pretty blatant dog whistling going on in the lyrics, like bad. He has since quietly moved on from such inflammatory lyrics since starting Seal and even gotten Austin Lund to play drums on their 2014 album Aura. That album is excellent. So finally, I can recommend the Romanian band Nightbringer for a similar, seamless blend of regional folk music, progressive rock, and black metal. The folk elements this time are of Romanian origin, and the prog elements are more melancholic in nature, but the blends remain close enough to NM without being a copy of them. Nightbringer were very much their own thing. And what is interesting is that in a twist that might concern some people, they were friends with the guys in Nokturnal Mortum way back in 2000. But apparently that didn't really reflect in their music much, as their label claimed that they weren't fascist and that they were nice guys. So only a slight recommendation, but it's still a great one regardless. These next two bands that are related to each other are going to be a freaking doozy. Because up next, we have the extremely controversial American band known as Grand Belial T. These guys were formed by an individual who goes by the stage name of, well, I'm just gonna shorten his name to GM for this entry in the next one. You can look up his full stage name if you're more curious to know what it is. Anyways, this GM guy, his band plays a style that is like a blackened take on the guitar riff with the pirate metal pioneers running wild. But the lyrics of this band, they are so racist, so offensive, and so shocking that it honestly beggars belief. So, for non-racist alternatives to this band, I posted on the RABM subreddit asking for recommendations. And one band that came up a couple of times was the Brooklyn-based black metal band Spite, not to be confused with the deathcore band of the same name. I checked out Spite's 2018 album Anti-Matriarch, and it was good raw black metal. I'm not sure how much it sounds like Grand Belial, but it is well performed. Very, very, very blasphemous, as evidenced by the cover art beside me. Apparently, the guy behind Spike runs a small extreme metal label called Dizzy and Black Hands that apparently has a decent track record as far as keeping its rock just free as possible. So give Spite a try if you're drawn away from GBK because of their lyrics. G-Young's other project is that death metal band that I was talking about earlier. That brutal melodic death metal band that you might have heard Wyatt Sims hype up, and the only death metal band on this list of controversial artists. That being the band, Argo Slent. For this band, Dion basically takes its running wild worship and its extremely racist lyrics and applies it to the canvas of death metal. If the acronym NSDN was ever created, these guys would be the first band to get classified as death. They're with the melodic, they're brutal, but just like with Grand Belial's T, it's just held back by these awful, bigoted, racist lyrics. I saw one of them on Radio Music where they just advocated for slavery in the most derogatory, disgusting way possible. And it's just like, can you guys not? like to listen to a band that plays this exact same style of brutal, punishing melodic death metal without having to deal with racist lyrics, check out the Canadian band Grenadier. However, if you're still perceived by Grenadier being an Argus former record label, I have three options for you. The first one being the Japanese brutal melodic death metal band Intestine Ballism. And holy shit, I'm obsessed with these guys. They are just the most perfect synthesis of brutality and melody. Check out the 2003 album, Banquet in the Darkness. The next recommendation is the 2020 debut album from the American band Dreadcar, entitled At the Crossroads of Infinity. This band features prominent shredder and R/metal subreddit fixture Brandon Corsair on guitar, and it is death metal with melody and blue collar trad metal influences. In fact, there is one part on the closing track that is inspired by a Manila Road song, believe it or not. So yeah, Dreadcar, check them out. And the last recommendation for finding the Argo sound without the inflammatory lyrics goes to Dungeon Serpent, which is another Canadian brutal melodic death metal band. There's a shoddy drum programming on the 2021 debut album that keeps me from enjoying it to the fullest. There are still a lot of juicy riffs to bite into. For my sake, hopefully the next album will have real drama. And he did get a real drummer for live shows, so hopefully he or she is going to play on the album. The second to last NSBM band that I am going to call out for their bigotry and racism is the French folky black metal group Pastel Noir. Just like with the previous two entries, I'm not putting up any of these bands' album covers on the screen because they're all so freaking racist. Their sound is very medieval with a prominent accordion in the mix, but if you think I'm gonna listen to that while staring at an album cover of a guy in blackface, I'm sorry, but that's not happening. As an ignorant, naive teenager, Nige, believe it or not, from the Black Age Pioneers All-Star, yeah, that Nige, was in this band as a drummer and then later as a vocalist. Nowadays, he looks back at that time period in his life with a lot of regret and a lot of remorse. I would too if I were him. In fact, I'd be very disgusted at myself for even daring to collaborate with neo-fascists like that. We're also friends with bands in the Ukrainian NSBM scene, so yeah, that's another black mark against them. And the flippin' acronym is KPM for Commando Costa Noir. Seriously? Band is so screwed up. If you guys want that really medieval sound without all of what I just said, then Unfell is your friend. The Swiss band has a message on the back of their most recent 2021 album that states that they do not tolerate fascists or communists, but they're politically neutral. And that works for me, as I love Unfell's sound and how they switch from melodic black metal to medieval folk music and then back again. Check out their 2018 album. Pretty neat stuff. And now, we find ourselves at the final NSBM band covered in this video, the infamous progenitor of this whole wave of alt-right shitheads playing black metal, and they are a now band called Absurd. I'm just gonna keep this entry as brief as possible for my already depleted personal sanity. There's only so much I can take without just flipping tables and punching drywall like a freaking five-finger death punch fan. To keep it brief, Absurd play a mixture of oi and black metal. The former genre is a punk subgenre that is the favorite punk genre to play amongst white nationalist groups. Oh, and just like some of the members of the other comparatively more well-known black metal bands of the 90s, they are murderers. Child murderers, in fact. Vile. Freaking vile. For this replacement, I'm just going to recommend the first ever band in the ongoing movement of red and anarchist black metal, the Canadian band Iskra. In an interesting parallel to Absurd, Iskra is also a mixture of punk and black metal. with the punk element being much more indebted to the crust punk style. They are raw and aggressive and have been doing anarchist black metal long before bands like Panopticon and Don Raid even existed. Alright, that's enough for this video. I feel like if I talk any more about no socialist black metal, my head might freaking explode in anger. If you made it this far into the video and suffered through all of that fascist band bullshit, you're a legend. I'm expecting the comment section of this video to become a total bloodbath. I can just see it. If you are one of the more mature people lurking down in the comment section, hey, you want to see a part 2 to this? Because there are a lot, and I mean a lot of bands I can call out for discussion. Anyways, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button or thumbs down if you hear me calling out your favorite sketchy ass black metal band. Go ahead. I can take it. I'm a big boy. Rock on, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.